Am I the a-hole for not going to my stepsister's wedding? I, 29, think this is obvious to me, but my family says I'm being an a-hole, so I don't know. My ex-boyfriend cheated on me with my stepsister, 29, and I still haven't gotten rid of the pain and hatred. I'm still taking therapy, and now I can't date or else I'm afraid they'll cheat on me. I found out on the day of my pregnancy. My ex told me that he's leaving me for my stepsister and that she's also pregnant. So I gave birth with no one to help me. My stepsister got engaged to my ex and they're planning a wedding. They invited me like nothing happened and everything was fine. She even called to discuss what I was wearing to the wedding. I told her I'm not going. She threw a tantrum and went to her mom. Her mom called and said I was being petty and not keeping the peace by not letting go of the past. I still refused, but now my entire step-family's calling me an a-hole and all kinds of stuff. My stepsister came to my freaking house and said I was just a bitter old C-word, and no one would date a jealous person like me. I immediately cut contact after that, but my friends say I should at least visit or congratulate them. I don't know if I'm being petty though. I know I'm not the a-hole for not going, but should I congratulate them? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Obvious not the a-hole. I assume you're at least getting child support, etc. I am. Does your whole step family take crazy pills? No way in hell anybody could expect of you to go to that wedding or to congratulate them. WTF? Where is your father in all this? Does he not have a backbone? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Listen closely. Screw them. Screw your ex, your stepsister, your stepmom, the whole family. Don't congratulate them on anything because they're only pushing it so they can feel less guilty about the messed up things they did. Take yourself and your baby if they are in the picture and live your best life without their toxicity. Not the a-hole. 100% screw them. In what universe is this action okay? Just wondering what you're wearing to celebrate your cheating ex and I getting married. Tee-hee. If that isn't his court-ordered custody time with your kid, I wouldn't even let them go. Screw your step-family. Not the a-hole. Your ex is marrying your stepsister. There is no way in hell you would be able to drag me to that wedding if I was in your shoes. Being honest, I am amazed you have contact with your step-family. I would have dropped them and any so-called friends who tell me to go to that wedding. I don't know. There is something to the idea of going to the wedding, eating all the food, drinking loads of free booze, and then getting up and giving a toast with all the gory details of how the happy couple met. Added bonus if OP mentions how great it's going to be to raise the two kids, with the same father, side by side. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my twin brother's wedding? I, 21 male, first started dating my now ex-girlfriend, 21 female, when we were both 16. However, we made the decision to break up before heading off to college when we were 18. I decided to go to a few hours away while she decided to stay local. Also note that my girlfriend was very close with my family, so this was hard on my family as well. When returning home from my first year of college, my brother surprised me with the news that he had been dating a girl for over 6 months now. Only problem? It was my ex-girlfriend. I was obviously pissed, and my brother understood, but made it clear he had no intention of breaking up with her. Eventually, we came to the agreement that we would continue our relationship if he never mentioned her to me or made us interact. He happily agreed to these terms. However, recently my brother surprised me with the news that the two of them are now engaged, and he wants me to be his best man. I told him absolutely not. He and I had agreed from the beginning that I would not have to attend any event where my ex would be there. My whole family is calling me selfish and telling me I can suck it up for one night. But I just don't feel comfortable being the best man at my ex's wedding. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to the wedding and be his best man? Edit. For clarification, yes, we are identical twins. Not the a-hole. Those were your terms. He agreed to them. End of story. Because life is black and white and there is no nuance to anything ever. OP, who cares who was the a-hole here? It's done. She's going to be your sister-in-law. You've got to get that right with you. Go have an honest conversation with your brother. A person's personal boundaries are black and white. They are also fixed in place. And in this case, they aren't absurd or crazy when this girl became so attached to Opie's family that after over a year of dating Opie, she started dating his identical twin. That's fine for her random brother, but it's not fine for Opie, and that's okay. If this is the hill he wants to die on, more power to him, as long as he knows that his relationship with his family may suffer. His family doesn't respect his boundaries. They see her as a surrogate daughter, and Opie sees her as an ex from a very formative time in his life that they want to force him to be around for forever, and the family doesn't get it. So it's up to each individual to do what they feel comfortable doing here. Not Dayhole. I think dating your sibling's ex is a scummy thing to do anyway. So why the hell should you be uncomfortable for someone who's done that to you? I think you handled the entire situation well, better than most people would, with the agreement you both came up with. I'm actually shocked your brother thought you'd say yes. Like, that generally baffles me. Why on earth would you be the best man at your brother's and ex-girlfriend's wedding? Why is it so common on Reddit? I can't think of a person having a less attractive quality than being my sister's ex. Well, no a-holes here. Because you have every right to not go to your brother's wedding, but you know that you're basically sacrificing your family for the rest of your life. For a girl you dated as a teenager. You guys didn't work out, and after you broke up, she and your brother realized they were more compatible. They've been dating for over 2 years, so it's not like a fling to spite you. But they're going to marry, which means they will be invited as a family to every family event. If they choose to have kids, they will be your nieces and nephews, and your parents' grandkids. The grandkids will definitely be invited to every event. So you need to basically decide if you're willing to say no to every family event in the future, and never meet your brother's kids, because there's a woman he was more compatible with than you were. While I agree with all of this, there's more to it. Twin brother risked his relationship with Opie for a girl. Like, can you imagine? I would feel more betrayed that my own twin sibling thought it was okay to go after my ex. What does that honestly say about someone's priorities and values? Nothing good, I'm afraid. Opie will get over the girl one day, but that deception, that betrayal, will stick. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting my maid of honor's boyfriend at my wedding? Myself and my maid of honor have been best friends for around 6 years. She got into a relationship with her boyfriend about 3 years ago. He doesn't like me because every time they argue, she comes to me and she stays with me and my fiancé. Around 3 years ago, I had a party for my birthday. My best friend had just gotten with her boyfriend 10 days previous and insisted that I invited him. I told her she could bring him. When they came, they both sat in the corner for the entire night and didn't speak to anyone else, didn't dance, and didn't even wish me a happy birthday. 2 years ago, my best friend found out she was pregnant and he didn't want anything to do with it. He told her he was leaving if she carried on with the pregnancy, so I stepped up and helped her. I went to every doctor's appointment, paid for all her pregnancy vitamins, and bought her new clothes to fit her changing body. Through the stress of everything with her boyfriend, she miscarried, and she had to be rushed to the hospital. I was by her side through everything, stayed at a hospital with her and bought everything she needed. When she woke up from surgery, she thanked me for everything I'd done, and her boyfriend got angry. He said that I didn't do anything for her, and that I was a horrible friend. I let it go because I thought he was just angry and upset about everything that had happened. But even now he still tries to stop her from seeing me, and whenever she's with me, he is constantly messaging her so we can't spend any time together, just us. We have spoken about his dislike for me, and she said that she wished things were different, but he is stuck in his opinion of me and there's nothing I can do to change it. I have expressed to my maid of honor that I don't want her boyfriend at my wedding, because I feel like something would happen to ruin my day, especially after seeing how they reacted on my birthday. Why would I want someone who doesn't like me to be there on my most special day? She doesn't understand why I don't want him there, and has told me she's not coming to my wedding unless he's invited. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole and she needs to wake up a bit. This relationship sounds extremely toxic. I wouldn't want him there in your shoes either. Why risk someone who hates you being at your wedding? This 100%. You didn't mention her family or other friends. Are you all she has? I know my family would chime in if I had a relationship that tainted my best friendship. The hardest part of this for you, honestly, is she's already made her choice, and you need to face it. She's chosen to stay with him even through his cowardly, manipulative, disgusting, and disrespectful behavior. You inviting him to the wedding will only potentially ruin your wedding, and it will only delay the inevitable. She's already chosen. Save your wedding and yourself. May your marriage be a happy one. She doesn't have a good relationship with her family. She moved in with her boyfriend and his mom over a year ago and has been quite isolated since. We don't really have other friends, just each other. Thank you. Not Dayhal, but I'm very concerned for your friend. My guess is she's trapped in an abusive relationship from the way he's trying to cut off her support and isolating her from her friends. We saw the same red flags. Opie's not Dayhal. Her friend is almost certainly in an abusive relationship and has the wool over her eyes. It often takes the abuse turning physical to recognize it as abuse, and by then, it is basically always too late. I really hope that Opie can find a way to help her friend somehow. Not Dayhal, and I don't understand how some people can look past how their significant others treat other people. Why would anyone want to be with someone who treats anyone, let alone someone they love, the way he treats you? Don't invite him. You shouldn't have to worry about being disrespected on any day, let alone one that's meant to be celebrating your happiness. If she doesn't want to come, that's fine, but she needs to let you know now so you can choose another maid of honor. Honestly, I just go ahead and start finding a backup in case she pulls some kind of stunt closer to the day to get you to cave. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole because I don't want to go to my sister's wedding? My 30 female sister 28 female is getting married June 26. She was supposed to get married last summer, but you know. They went to the courthouse and got married in paper last autumn, but now that everyone's vaccinated and restrictions are lifting, they're planning a ceremony and a reception in Florida. I've been in a master's program for the past 2 years and just graduated. I'm moving across the country, Dallas to Seattle, the week before her wedding because I received a job offer, and I'm supposed to start the Monday, June 28, after her wedding. My current lease is up exactly 1 week, June 19, before her wedding. The new lease in Seattle starts in June 24. My plans have been in place for about 2 months. Her plans have been in place for a while, but she only recently sent out invitations with the date, and I realized she couldn't have picked a worse weekend for me. It's going to take me 4 days to actually drive the U-Haul to my new estate with a dog and cat in tow, and it's not possible for me to move in at my place in Seattle much earlier because the current tenant doesn't move out until 2 days before. I already called to check. It's not possible for me to move from Dallas later because my current apartment has already rented out the unit to someone else. I checked that too. Not to mention the logistics of a very short-term lease are going to be awful and expensive when I'm already trapped for cash. I've never been close to her. She's never come to any of my important events, aside from high school graduation because my parents made her. I wasn't invited to the wedding shower stuff for their courthouse wedding. I'm not in the wedding party, not invited to the rehearsal dinner. I only received a wedding announcement with registry info and an invitation to the wedding and reception. I RSVP'd no. Now she and my family are losing their minds. I've been called every kind of name and have been accused of planning it this way on purpose. They're saying I still could come. I'm just choosing not to. I guess I could, in theory. Race to Washington, pay movers to throw all my stuff in my new apartment on the 24th, find a place to board my dog and cat on short notice, buy a plane ticket to fly to Florida on the 25th, attend a wedding on the 26th, fly back on the 27th, and be home just in time to start my new job the next day. I just don't want to, and can't afford it. The move and apartment deposit has me already stretched pretty thin money-wise. Pet deposits aren't cheap, and neither is gassing up a U-Haul for a cross-country move. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. I didn't RSVP no without explanation. I did call both my mom and sister and explain I probably couldn't be there. They both got irritated and insisted I could probably find a way. And when they asked for a final answer a week later, I said no. That was when all hell broke loose because they both assumed that with a bit of time and reflection, I'd understand how important it was to be at my sister's wedding. Not today, Hall. Have your parents offered money to help your logistics to do it? Why not tally up all the added costs and say if they can pay, then you'd be delighted to attend. Put the ball in their court. I mean, Opie hasn't been invited to the pre-wedding stuff. Courthouse wedding, isn't invited to the rehearsal dinner. I wouldn't want to go either. It isn't just about the money, though that is a valid concern. But the bride, I put quotes only because she's already technically married, throws a fit when Opie says no to the one event they're actually invited to because of a plan that's already been in place for a long time. Not today, Opie. Honestly, I tell her and your mom to kick rocks. Exactly. If the sister actually wanted Opie there, she would have asked if she could come before the date was set in stone, and not told her about it only a month before the wedding is supposed to happen, especially since there's a major traveling involved in a pandemic. I highly doubt the sister wanted to have Opie there at all. She probably just got pressured by the parents. Not today, Hull. Your sisters and parents had a choice too. They could have responded with understanding and kindness, noting their disappointment and asking if there was a way they could help to make your attendance possible. Yes, you can fly Friday and return Sunday. Yes, you can board your dogs. That's a lot of stress the day before you start your new job, not to mention the relocation. Be honest with your sister and family. While there is a lot of stress related to other events, relocation, new job, you simply don't have the financial resources for boarding, flights, hotel. Send your wishes for a happy event along with your gift. Am I the a-hole for calling out my kid's future stepmom for treating me like a surrogate? I, 29 female, dated a guy Joe, 30 male, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex, Kim, 30 female. Right after we broke up, I found out I was pregnant, and now I'm at 24 weeks. I let him know, and he was ecstatic. Turns out, his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he has always wanted to be a father. Getting back together was out of the question for both of us, so he's still with his girlfriend. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID-19, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim, she had a mental breakdown about her infertility and wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house, and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to do a home birth, that I needed to formula feed so that they could have the babies half of the week, that she wanted one boy and one girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama since they would be calling me mommy. I shut her down and said I would make the best choices for my children and my body and left. Kim continued to be overbearing and texting me every day about my eating habits, exercise habits, and witching about how her job wouldn't let her take maternity leave. Then at the virtual genetics counseling appointment, she attended instead of Joe and took over the whole meeting trying to talk about her family history, which wasn't relevant. When it came time for my 20-week level 2 scan, they allowed me one guest, and Joe suggested I take Kim instead of him, which I refused to do. Joe did end up coming, and he found out the gender because I wanted to keep it a surprise for me so we could throw a gender reveal party. I put a pregnancy announcement on my social media, and then she put up an announcement saying they were expecting twins the non-traditional way and how blessed she was. I was irritated, but I kept my mouth shut. Then she threw a gender reveal party and posted it on social media. I wasn't even invited. She also announced that she's having a baby shower. I commented on her posts and told her to stop treating me like a surrogate, that kids weren't hers, and that Joe didn't have any claim or custody of the kids until they're born. I then called Joe and reiterated all of this and stated that I would not be seeing either of them until we went to family court, and that my mother would be my birthing partner. He and Kim and some of her friends and family are saying I'm an a-hole, and her mother even called and insisted I give her one of my babies like this is the parent trap? So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. OP, I'm not being dramatic in any way when I say this. Get a lawyer now. Keep records of everything. And whatever you do not allow yourself to be alone with Kim. Almost none of Kim's behavior is okay. It's in fact disturbing. Block phone numbers. File a police report for harassment if you have to. Keep yourself and your children safe. Edit. I was so disturbed by this post, I had to come back and add that assuming Opie is from the US, she can go through her state bar association's lawyer's diary and find a lawyer that specializes in family law. Get a consultation and take no prisoners. Someone else here commented that you're being treated like an incubator, and that couldn't be any closer to the truth. Stay away from baby daddy as well. This is all very, very shady. And Kim's mother suggesting they split the twins between parents? WTHF. OP was right when she said she wasn't being treated as a mother, but a surrogate. I would go so far as to say the twins are seen as objects as well. OP needs to lawyer up and play hardball about custody. Kim's not going to get better here. She has people enabling her behavior. Not even a surrogate. Surrogates get paid, I believe. She's being treated as an incubator. Yay. Not Dayhole. What in the hell did I just read? Lawyer. Court. Document everything and distance the hell away from them. That woman is insane. You need to talk to a family lawyer about how to protect yourself against Joe and Kim trying to gain custody out from under you ASAP. And Kim needs to see a therapist because she really is treating you like a surrogate and it's incredibly creepy. Joe not telling her to stay in her lane is also a serious problem. Not Dayhole. Edit. I'm definitely getting a lawyer ASAP. Y'all have scared the crap out of me, but I'm happy you did. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole? Family cut me off financially. Wants me home this weekend, so I said they'll have to pay me. I'm a student. My parents set aside some money yonks ago, so when I went off to university, I could afford to go just about anywhere. This wasn't a tuition thing as we're in the UK, so I was always going through Student Finance England, SFE, for that. But some areas of the country are way more expensive than others due to the cost of living, as it gets higher around the best unis. I got into a uni with a very high cost of living. My parents were giving me the money meant for me in installments, just like SFE does. I got a part-time job to top it up. Then I got pregnant. I figured I could keep the baby, provided I didn't suddenly lose any income. My parents then decided to stop giving me the money they set aside for me, saying it was for my education only. I then went over my options again and realized I would have to go full-time to just make ends meet, which I did, but I had to make a lot of compromises to make it work. It's been like this for about a year. I gave birth late last August, making my daughter just over 7 months old. Myself, my parents, my sister have all had our first jabs, and none is fully vaxxed. Dad's birthday is this Friday, and Nan's is on Tuesday. So my parents want me and my sister to drive to Nan's house this weekend to celebrate both events. I've said I can't afford it. It's a 6-hour drive each way, so I'll miss at least 1, most likely 2, days of work. My parents asked me to rearrange what I could, pointing out that I should get money from SFE next month. It actually came a week ago, so I can afford to miss work for a couple days. They said as they haven't met the baby yet, and we've not seen each other in a year, they want to see us now. I said if they want to see us, they can pay me as I can't afford to lose any wages now that they've cut me off. But they said that's incredibly unfair of me, and they can't believe I'd try and guilt trip them over what they did with their money. I offered to FaceTime my sister, who could put me on with Mum, Dad, and Nan if I had time, but they said me mentioning time constraints was further guilt-tripping, and I shouldn't expect them to pay for my presence, that I was being tactless and selfish, and that if I attend, they don't want to hear about money. I told them that they've created this situation, and if they're seriously shocked that I can't afford to take cross-country trip with 2 days' notice, then they have no clue what the real world is like for someone who is a full-time student, a full-time worker, and a single mother, so now I have an appearance fee. My sister's boyfriend also got his SFE loan early like it did, so she said that I already have the money from SFE, and that me wanting an appearance fee is greedy and entitled, bordering extortion, and that I'm trying to make our parents feel guilty about money I have no right to. Am I the a-hole? Info. For people suggesting they visit me, I have a 1-bedroom in a not super touristy town. Nan's house is a 5-bed / 2.5 bath, less than 2 minutes walking from the beach, down south. The idea behind suggesting Nan's house was that we could all head down on Friday or Saturday, stay over, then head back Sunday. Not day hole. If they want to see you without paying for your travel time, they can travel to you. What they're asking of you is not financially neutral. Making this trip would cause you to lose money you can't afford to lose. You aren't lying by saying you literally can't afford to go unless they help you out. Yeah, people are pissed off by the phrase appearance fee, but that's extraneous information. She can't afford to travel because they backed out on funding her education. They can easily afford to help her travel. She's not the a-hole for pointing that out. Exactly. I'm a full-time student and work part-time and I'm dying. Can you imagine working full-time, plus studying full-time, plus being a full-time parent, plus other adult responsibilities that take time and money? Jesus Christ! Not Dayhole. She's the only true adult in this. Not Dayhole. I realize it's your parents' money to use at their own discretion, but they had to realize cutting you off at your most vulnerable, and at a time of life when you need support most, was going to drive a wedge between you. They don't now get to demand your presence on little notice. I do think it was a little tactless to call it an appearance fee, but whatever you're feeling, if it's bitterness or anger, you came by it honestly. They also don't get to play the "we've never met the baby" card when their actions contributed to your inability to come home as you now work full-time. And frankly, if they really want to foster a relationship with you and your child, they're going to have to understand that you're under a lot of financial constraints. They had a choice to make it not quite as drastic, or they could even have said, "We'll pay for the gas," / "We'll give you X amount of money to make up for the travel time." My parents did this a couple times when they wanted me to come to family functions that I just didn't have the money for. They could have given you more time, or if this were really about seeing you and your child, they could have made time or made plans to come to you. Especially since the money was set aside for education and OP is still a student. Full-time, I think? It seems to me the condition of getting the money from parents was to pay for costs of living while getting an education, and OP is still fulfilling that, despite also having a baby. Now the parents aren't holding up their end of the deal, or they changed their terms too and you can't have a kid. If their goal was to punish OP for being irresponsible and getting pregnant, congratulations! You now have a responsible child that recognizes that they can't drop work on a whim because they need to provide for their own baby. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my mom for 2 weeks now? I'm 19, female and only child, and I grew up with very affectionate parents. They love to kiss me, and I still sometimes sleep on their bed with them. Overall, you could say my relationship with my parents is relatively good. We live in an apartment with 2 rooms, one for me and one for them. A living room, a kitchen/dining area, 1 toilet, and 1 toilet and bath. My story starts about 2 weeks ago. It was just me and my mom inside our home since my dad had to go to work. I was showering at around 6 p.m. after I worked out, and while I usually lock the door whenever I'm inside, I didn't at that time since I was comfortable around my mom and we were both girls anyway. Suddenly, the bathroom door opened. I thought it was my mom, but I found it strange that the door closed immediately as it was opened. I had just applied facial wash when it happened, so I couldn't really see what's going on. When I went finished my bath, my mom suddenly started screaming at me and calling me names. SLUT, you little flirt, etc., etc. I didn't understand her sudden outburst until I saw my dad walking out of their room, and it was then that I realized it must have been my dad who opened the door while I was showering. Although my dad assured my mom and me that he didn't know I was in there and didn't see anything and it was purely accidental, my mom still berated me for not being careful and that it was my fault. Her words really hurt me, which resorted to me ignoring her for more than 2 weeks now. She would try to get my attention and start to touch/hug me again, but I ignore all of them. Am I the a-hole for doing such thing? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and frankly, your mom might have insecurity issues if she's worried about your dad doing anything to you with no prior issues happening. All you did was not lock the door, and all he did was walk in and out from what I'm reading. Honestly, if I was the dad, I would be reconsidering my relationship with my wife if she thinks I would want to be inappropriate with my own daughter. WTF? If I was the dad, I'd be extra horrified that not only does she think I'd want to be inappropriate with my daughter, but that it would be the daughter's fault and would warrant calling her an S. Not the a-hole. Sorry, your mom is messed up. She is literally sexualizing the fact that your dad maybe saw a glimpse of you naked. Even if he had seen you fully naked, calling you an S is so freaking wrong. That implies that you are trying to seduce your dad. So for her to be upset about this, she would have to believe that you would get some kind of gratification from your dad seeing you naked, and possibly that your dad would get something out of it too. Not the a-hole, and your relationship with your parents is anything but normal. Stop sleeping with them. Last story is titled,
Would I be the a-hole if I kicked out my existing affair baby when she turns 18, even though she is a great child? Hello. This is sort of a different scenario than some of the affair baby posts on here. I knew this girl was not mine from the beginning, and her mother told me while she was still pregnant. She cheated on me because at the time I lost my job and I might have been permanently disabled, so we divorced while she was still pregnant. I somehow was able to defy the odds and recovered almost entirely, found a new job, and became quite successful. I originally did not get custody of my 3 biological daughters, confirmed with DNA testing, because my injury left me unable to take care of them. However, eventually I was able to show I would be the more fit parent, and the custody situation reversed. I got my 3 daughters, and they occasionally spent weekends with their stepdad and mom. This is where the problems began. Stepdad was racist, and my daughters are mixed. I'm black. After obtaining proof of this, their mom lost custody entirely and even lost custody of their bio child for other reasons. Now, I love my daughters, and they were always sad when their little sister was left crying when they got to go to fun places with me and she did not. My daughters eventually encouraged me to take her along too. Long story short, this girl started getting really attached to me because I was the most stable parent she had in her life, I guess. She tried to call me dad after her dad left her mom and went no contact. While I was able to shut that down, she has referred to me as uncle. Eventually, this girl moved into my house after repeatedly running away to come stay with us. That's a whole other story. But basically, my daughters pressured me all along because they didn't want their sister abandoned without them. Now she's 18 and about to graduate high school. She is, in all honesty, a great kid who never makes trouble for me. However, the sight of her still makes me incredibly sad. I feel like I have put on a face while around her, and I regret keeping the charade up this long because she even gets me Father's Day cards and stuff. I'm not racist, but the fact that I'm black and she is white makes it so obvious she's not mine that it hurts. Ultimately, I probably wouldn't kick her out, but she has expressed that she wants to live here for a few more years while going to a local college. She had a whole detailed plan that she showed me on her birthday, and it would ruin it if I kicked her out. Would I be the a-hole if I asked her to just leave after high school and once she had a job? You typed all that out and you don't even think you're the a-hole here? What the hell? What's happened to all those not your blood, not your problem people? Bunch of hypocrites. Or is it because he's black and is ready to move on from caring for a white half-sister of his actual kids? I'm pretty sure it's because baby mom and stepfather are neglectful and or abusive, not because he's black. If everything was okay at home, half-sister wouldn't have run away that many times. It's not even that. It's the fact that he's been in that role her whole life. Imagine having someone you view as a father dump you at 18. I had that crap happen to me, and it was traumatic. You would be the a-hole. I suggest you get therapy. If she's still a painful reminder after 18 years, you are chasing some very old demons. This is a hard one, because it's obviously painful for you. But yeah, you would be the a-hole. You've said this girl is a great kid. Her sisters love her, etc., etc. It sounds like she sees you as a father figure, so you've clearly done good things for her so far. It would cause her trauma, and probably even more daddy issues than she already may have regarding her bio if you kick her out. I don't know, maybe discuss with your bio daughters if they're old enough? I feel like there may be some resentment from them towards you if you do this. At the end of the day, she had nothing to do with her mother's affair. So if she's a good kid, please don't punish her for something she had no control over, and continue to be the father figure she has grown to love. Am I the a-hole for not paying college money for my daughter, which I found out wasn't mine? My ex cheated on me and made me believe for 9 years that my daughter was mine. When I found out, I filed for divorce but still had to pay child support. I felt bad for my daughter, so I gave my wife the money I had for her college fund. But the minute I did, my ex-wife refused to let me see her. Eventually, I got remarried and have a son and another daughter. My ex got in contact with me through social media and asked for her college fund. When I told her I already gave it to her for my daughter, she confessed that she spent it on gambling and lost it all. My daughter had no money for college and could only go with debt. She asked for more money, but I said no, since I already gave it, and the only other fund I had now was for my son and other daughter.
and I wasn't going to give her that fund. My ex told my daughter a twisted version of the event, and now she's mad at me and calling me an a-hole and playing favorites. My ex-wife is joining in as well. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Provide your daughter with your bank statements from 9-ish years ago showing you gave her mother her college fund. If you have your ex's comments regarding the college fund in social media comments, also provide that to your daughter. If you want, you can show her that you paid for her child support as well every single month. You fulfilled your legal duty, child support, to your daughter regardless of her biological connection to you. Not an a-hole. I do have screenshots of her remarks. My daughter does know I paid her child support. She just thinks I should pay for her college again because of her mother. Not an a-hole. It does suck that your daughter got saddled with a crappy mom. But you've done your part, and you provided for her thus far. Now it would be unfair to your other kids. To ask for their fund is entitled and rude. She needs to grow up and blame the real villain here, her mother. Info. You said your ex denied you contact even though you were paying child support. If you're paying child support, you are entitled to a custody hearing. Have you not seen your daughter this whole time? You're not a a-hole about the college fund, but I'm curious why you can't just explain to your daughter what happened. I have, and she doesn't believe me since I haven't seen her. Show her the message exchanged with her mom. You just walked away from her after 9 years? His wife did not let him meet her. He was legally her father. He had rights. If this story is true, which is doubtful, then when mom said no, Opie said, "Oh, okay, cool," and abandoned his daughter for 9 years. That's not normal. He was most likely on the birth certificate as her father. Once he found out his daughter was not his, because his name is on the birth certificate, he still needs to pay child support for her, regardless of whether she's biologically his or not. But he most likely had no grounds to fight for custody because he is not her biological father. So yes, the mother can refuse visitation while he is still paying child support. The system is completely flawed. Not an a-hole. The one your daughter should be getting angry at is your ex-wife. If she had any concern about her, she would go gambling around. You don't owe them crap. Let them take loans or whatever. You have done your part. Let your daughter see some proof. Though I don't know how she's ready to believe someone who lied for 9 years and not you. Still, you leaving her after learning she wasn't yours is a trash behavior. 'Cause real or not, as a parent, you loved her for 9 years. You were the father figure for her. Can't imagine how sad she must have been. Probably even blamed herself for everything. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my son to stay the night at his grandparents' house? A little backstory. I am a single mother to a 2-year-old boy. We'll call him Gavin. Gavin's father, Ted, and I are not together. I have sole physical custody, and his father has supervised visitation once a week. Ted was never involved in my pregnancy at all, and is not very involved in our son's life either. Ted's mother, Rose, however, is very involved. Rose can be overwhelming, but I try to brush it off as I know she just does it out of love for her grandchild. I'll admit I'm a bit overprotective and hyper-independent, as I don't trust many people to be alone with my son. When Gavin was first born, I had a rule, like many other parents, that I did not allow anyone to kiss my child until he was a year old. I was afraid of him contracting any viruses that could significantly harm him as an infant. This fear came true when he got RSV at 9 months and spent 4 days in the hospital in oxygen. Anyway, Rose always tried to sneak kisses when I wasn't looking. I one time caught it on the baby monitor and I was furious. This was only the beginning of her having zero respect for my rules as a parent. The most recent time was when she came to my house to see Gavin. Gavin wanted to go play outside, but I had said no and that it was time to get ready for dinner. I told him we could play outside after we eat. Rose picked him up and he said, "Outside." I repeated what I had said, and she responded, "Oh, we'll just go out for a minute." I asked her to not do that because, knowing how my son is, I knew that he would inevitably be more upset when they came back in, and he wouldn't want to eat his dinner. Rose started to walk toward the door with Gavin and I said, loudly and firmly, "Rose," I said, "no." She continued to take him outside for a couple minutes and came back in. And what happened at dinner? He screamed about going outside and wouldn't eat. I was annoyed that she had not only undermined my parental authority,
and showed my son that what mom says doesn't matter. She begs me to let him stay the night at her house, 1 hour away. I don't trust that she would follow my rules for him, and I'm truly not comfortable with him being an hour away from me overnight. She says it's time, and I say it's time when I say it's time. It's not that I don't like her, it's that I don't trust her. So am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I'd go a lot farther and actively ban her from spending time with your son until she respects your parenting decisions. Even if you depend on her for babysitting. It's only going to get worse if you let it slide now. Also, I would be a lot more transparent about why you don't want him to spend the night. It's time for me to take him overnight. I'm sorry, but it will be time for you to take him overnight when you can respect me as a parent and accept my decisions. Until I am fully convinced I can trust you to uphold my rules and not undermine my authority, he will not be spending that much time with him. Or just no. Especially after consulting a lawyer about the visitation order, making sure mom has full legal control over the issue, including with grandparents. And I wouldn't let her have even 1 hour with him alone at this point. Find a different babysitter, etc. So the woman that raised the guy that is not in your son's life and has supervised visitation and does not listen to or support your parenting decisions want to have your kid for overnight visits. Yeah, not today, Hall. I'm surprised you still allow visits at all. Not today, Hall. Her undermining your parenting that directly, in my opinion, means low contact or no contact. She is outright not listening to you, and any boundaries you set that even concern your child's health. She outright didn't listen to you when you were right there. Imagine being at her place an hour away from you. She isn't Gavin's parent. You are. And obviously understand Gavin better than she does. I wouldn't trust her. And I would reiterate that you don't appreciate her walking all over your boundaries as Gavin's mother, and therefore she will have limited contact with Gavin. If she doesn't like it, then she needs to start listening to you. But honestly, I highly doubt that, and she may become petty. Good luck, Opie. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my father to stop telling my niece to call him daddy? My sister had her baby a few months ago. It's been a bit tiring as normally because she's basically a newborn. My niece's father isn't exactly the best one, nor he has been that nice to my sister about everything, but he's still her father. My family, including me, don't really like him. However, my siblings and I hope that he will step up for the sake of his own daughter and my sister. Besides, we know it's not our place to decide anything for that matter. Our family lives under the same roof. My parents think differently. They want him completely out of the picture and basically hate him. They're rude towards him and will constantly belittle him. My father is an extremely impulsive and jealous person. I would even say he has anger issues. Because he doesn't like this man, he has taken every opportunity he has to rub it in my sister's face that he hasn't exactly done too much for his daughter. I constantly try to deter the conversation to avoid getting my sister upset, as she's breastfeeding and is very much tired. Ever since my niece was born, he would constantly tell her to call him daddy. We know she's still too young, but if this is the case now, I can't imagine how much worse it'll get when she starts babbling and talking. Every time he talks to her, he refers to himself as daddy, and it's annoying. My sister hates it and has told him, but he refuses to listen. Well, today he did the same thing, and repeated it so many times that I snapped and told him that he should stop, and that he is her grandfather, not her dad. Not daddy, just grandfather. He got mad and told us that he doesn't see any other father present, and that he deserves the title much more than that piece of turd of a man. I told him to stop, and he just walked away angry and telling us off. My mother didn't say anything and hasn't corrected him ever, but told us to stop being so rude. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Ew. It's gross to want to be daddy when your daughter is mommy. Blah. Boundaries are needed ASAP. Good for you. I also thought it was extremely weird. I think it might also be some type of power move on his behalf to assert his control over everyone at the house. Dad, if the baby starts calling you daddy, strangers are going to think that you impregnated your daughter. Is that what you want? For everyone to think you're some deviant? Then, if he continues to do it, I'd make exaggerated gagging noises each time. Make it super uncomfortable for him. Not today, Hall. It is extremely weird and potentially harming to your niece. Imagine her actually growing up calling your sister mommy and your father daddy, and then having to reverse everything when she's older. It's weird. Not an a-hole. Maybe you and your sister need to look for a place to live that doesn't involve living with your parents. Speaking of, does your sister know her dad is doing this? We've talked about it, and we hope that it can be done soon enough. We're still deep in debt for our universities. Unfortunately, there are no student loans where I live. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I won't recommend my nephew's mom for a job? So long story short, when I, 28 female, was in high school, I was tormented by this girl Amy, 28 female. Amy treated me like crap in freshman year, to the point she was kicked out of school. It didn't help because we were on the same softball and basketball team. And she treated me like crap there too, until I quit because I couldn't deal and they wouldn't kick her off the team. She then followed me into my teaching extracurricular, which ruined that for me too. It didn't truly end until I had nothing left. Fast forward to 2015, and my brother announces he had a one-night stand and was expecting a baby. And who was the mother in question? Amy. My brother apologized so many times to me, and eventually I forgave him, but it did affect our relationship. He brought her of all people back into my life. She acted like nothing had happened at first, and then when she was telling us all about wanting us super involved, she started cracking jokes about this girl she knew in high school, who was so weird and geeky and tried to get in on the sports stuff when she had no place in it. That was me. I was the girl she was cracking jokes about. She was called out on it, and she acted like she didn't remember me, but no apology was ever made. And now she lost her job because of a bad breakup. Ended up staying at my parents' house for a while before going to a friend of hers' place. And she's been rejected from several jobs. She has a pending application where I work, and she asked me to put in a good word for her so she can get it. My brother and parents told me I should recommend her for the job, that I did it before for people and I should do it again for my nephew. But I can't work with her and see her for my nephew's sake. I don't want her in my life at all. And I can feel it already bothering more that she's part of our lives now because of my nephew. I love him. But if I could change who his mother was, I would in a heartbeat. I hate her for what she did to me, and I can never forgive and forget. I just try not to deal with her too much. So I said no. I told them I couldn't do it. Now everyone thinks I'm an a-hole, because my nephew has a mom with no job, which means less stability for him as she's been going through a few different places to live with friends. The fact is, my voice would hold some weight and she would likely get the job if I said something. Am I the a-hole for not? Not the a-hole. She's never stopped being toxic, and you aren't obligated to help her ruin your work environment. You'd end up quitting, or at best looking like an unreliable jerk. That said, unless your family's on a first-name basis with your management, maybe you should have lied. Or at least dissembled like, I'll do what I can. But they're looking for certain qualifications, so she shouldn't bank on it. Think about how you will look to the company after recommending someone and then having to put a harassment claim against them. Not an a-hole. 100% this. You don't need to risk your own professional reputation for someone that has displayed their own inability throughout multiple years and on multiple occasions to behave civilly. Edit. Obviously not the LOP. Your nephew's mother is having employment issues because she is irresponsible. This is a mess 100% of her own making. Yes, it would be easy on everyone else if you gave her a recommendation, but it creates other problems that only you have to deal with. First, you have to work with a toxic colleague. Second, when she messes up this job, you will look bad for having given her a recommendation. Your brother and parents have no right to put this on you. Tell them to get her a job and leave you out of it. Not an a-hole. When she messes up this job, you will look bad for having given her a recommendation. Ding ding ding! This right here. OP, you said your voice would hold some weight. How do you think that would change if your nephew's mother messed up at this job? It doesn't seem like she ever stopped being a toxic person, so her messing up at some point seems rather likely. I wouldn't get involved if I were you. About your family, maybe act like you put in a good word for her but don't actually do it? Just an idea. I think in this situation it would be okay to lie in order to keep the peace. But your family are a-holes for trying to guilt you into doing something you don't want to do, Especially as it's something that would make you uncomfortable on a daily basis. Working with your former tormentor sounds like a nightmare, and you might face negative consequences at some point. Not Daehal. You would be inviting your tormentor in your space. She has hurt you badly and does not have the right to ask this from you. If they really want to, everyone else can help out, but you are in the clear. She didn't even apologize. What do they say? You reap what you sow? Am I Daehal for going to my ex's wedding pregnant? I, 32 female, have a daughter, 7 female with my ex, 33 male. Last weekend, he remarried to his new partner. Our split wasn't a good one as he cheated on me and admitted it literally 1 week before we were supposed to get married 5 years ago, leading me to losing almost 15,000 in deposits. As a result, we don't talk very much. He doesn't have any custody of our daughter as she is autistic and has problems with large groups of people, loud noises, and bright lights, and he has put her in situations before where she has had breakdowns. He has supervised visitation. We normally have an arrangement with a wonderful nanny who goes with our daughter to his family events, so I don't have to go. We split the cost for this 50-50. Unfortunately, the nanny broke her ankle 4 days before the wedding and was unable to go. The only suitably experienced replacement we could find was double the price due to short notice, and my ex refused to pay half, instead insisting I go or I pay the difference. I refused to pay the difference because I'm not currently working, just started maternity leave at 8 months pregnant, so was forced to go or risk traumatizing our daughter. My ex did not know I was this far advanced in my pregnancy. He knew I was pregnant. At the wedding, multiple family members of his and mutual friends of ours came up to ask me about the baby and who I was with, my now husband of 2 years. I brushed them off as much as possible, largely because I wanted to focus on our daughter's comfort, but also because I didn't want to be accused of scene stealing. Unfortunately, this has happened anyway. My ex called me up on Monday to blow up about how I ruined his wedding deliberately as payback for him ruining ours. I denied this and pointed out that it all could have been avoided had he paid the extra for the nanny, but he hung up on me and is now putting me on blast all over social media. Was I the a-hole for going? Now for the top comments. I suspect that your ex wanted you to come to the wedding, so you'd have to see him enjoying the wedding day he robbed you of so many years ago. Instead, your pregnancy generated a lot of sympathy from his friends and family. He sounds vile. My sympathies for his new wife. Not a-hole. Seriously, Obi sounds way better off not marrying that a-hole. You're a damn evil genius is what you are. 5 years ago, the planning began. After he destroyed your wedding, you knew one day you would have your revenge. You carefully chose and ensnared the perfect replacement husband, chosen specifically for his fertility. Then spending the intervening years carefully monitoring ovulation, you conceived at exactly the right moment to be far enough along at his wedding to steal the spotlight, but not so far along that you risked going into labor. Once phase 1 of your plan was complete, all that was left is to break your nanny's ankle. From there, everything fell neatly into place. Seriously, not a hole. X is a doorknob and is big mad because he didn't think things through. Not your fault. Congrats on your revenge happily ever after. Been a long time since I've seen such a well-crafted evil plan. He told you to pay full price or attend. You chose to attend. He doesn't get to be pissy that you attended. Not a hole. If he's assuming this about him ruining the original wedding, then he's admitting he's an a-hole. He's right on that. Not an a-hole. And if having this child's mother appear visibly pregnant at his wedding ruined it, then it was probably a pretty horrible wedding to begin with. No, the person who ruined the wedding was your ex, with his weird attitude. Why was he even looking at you? He could have just, looked at his bride instead. What does he even think a wedding is? Sounds like there might be more than one reason he doesn't have custody. Completely self-centered people don't make good parents. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my fiancé the family ring as an engagement ring? I, 27 male, have a sad and hurt fiancé, 29 female, over a hypothetical situation and need an outside perspective. Backstory. My great-grandmother was the product of an affair between her mother and her boss. Because he was already married and my great-grandmother was biracial, she was never acknowledged. It wasn't until her father was on his deathbed,
his wife had already passed before him, that he gave her his mother's ring and finally gave her the recognition she always craved. She loved that ring, and since then, it's been a prized possession in the family. My aunt was the only girl in the family after my grandmother died and doesn't have any children of her own. She told me that she would like to continue the tradition of passing this ring along to the next female generation, and said that she would hang on to it until I decided to give it to someone really special in my life. It didn't explicitly mean to give it to my future wife, but my aunt let me know that it was an option. Fast forward to now, and I proposed to my live-in girlfriend of 3 years. In the past, I had considered giving her the ring, but decided against because while I love her, she is a bit of an irresponsible airhead. It's not malicious or blatant lack of care, but she does have a habit of losing, damaging, or misplacing things. I'd much rather give the ring to a future, responsible daughter instead, and just ended up proposing with a $4,000 ring. My girlfriend loved the ring and was so proud of finding a guy who knew what she liked. Since we were in the early stages, my girlfriend was still in the habit of showing it off. Unfortunately, she lost it. And when I say lost, I mean she accidentally dropped it down the elevator shaft when she was showing it off to a coworker. My girlfriend was distraught and was almost too ashamed to tell. I told her that while I was upset, that I didn't hate her and would get her a replacement. She was so grateful and didn't care that the replacement ring was a lot cheaper and was happily showing this one off as much as the other one. My fiancé made a big post, and then all hell broke loose when a cousin of mine, paternal side, asked why I didn't just give her the maternal side family ring, since it had such great sentimental value. Now, my fiancé knew about the ring, but assumed that my aunt would take it with her to the grave. She didn't know that giving it to her was an option and asked about it. I tried to say that I would rather give it to our future daughter, but she countered that by giving it to her. It didn't mean that our future daughter wouldn't get it later. After enough pushing, I finally admitted my concerns about potentially losing the ring. My fiancé was very hurt by this, and while she hasn't said anything directly, she's sulking, and I've even heard her cry about it. Her sister's calling me jackass for refusing to give my fiancé the ring, and says that she just make mistakes. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, yes, we did contact management about getting the ring from the bottom of the elevator shaft, but it couldn't be located. My fiancé stated that it was dropped when the doors were opening/closing, and her co-workers backed up her story. Yes, the ring was properly sized at the time she showed it off to a co-worker. However, she took it off to show the inscription inside. Yes, the ring was insured, and we used that money to get her a new one. Dude, she did exactly what you thought she would, except it could have been the family ring down the elevator shaft. Not the a-hole. Exactly. It's like, babe, I'm sorry, but you kinda did prove my point. But then I would expect that not to go down well. Not the a-hole. It would go down about as well as a $4,000 engagement ring down an elevator shaft, frankly. Not the a-hole. I would say you were the a-hole, but she literally lost her engagement ring. But even if she didn't tend to lose things, we're talking about a 150-year-old ring with enormous sentimental value on top of the actual monetary and historical value. That stuff is going in a fireproof safe. I don't know why anyone would even want to wear something like that regularly. I'd be living in constant fear of something happening to it. Not the a-hole. Your cousin and her sister are. Make sure all rings are insured. Not the a-hole. She already lost an expensive ring. I wouldn't trust her with a sentimental family heirloom ring. Put it away for a future daughter or granddaughter who doesn't inherit your girlfriend's butterfingers. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for leaving my brother's wedding reception early? My 35 male brother set his wedding date on Halloween, which was also my youngest son's 4th birthday. I was asked to be a groomsman, but I was transparent and told my brother and sister-in-law that I would accept, but also we probably wouldn't stay for the whole reception. My sons, 4 and 7, still wanted to dress up, go trick-or-treating, and have their neighborhood kid friends over for a small Halloween birthday party after. Weirdly, my brother and sister-in-law never really acknowledged that I said we'd be leaving early, and I said it more than once over the months after they set the date. They always just kinda skirted around the topic, so I said screw it. If it was a problem, they'd say something. My wife was nervous about this. She agreed we'd leave, but still felt guilty. I, however, did not. They planned their wedding on a holiday and on their nephew's birthday. They had to have expected this, and I was sure we wouldn't be the only ones with kids leaving early. Day of the wedding, my mom pulls me aside and asks, "Are you sure you want to leave the reception early?" I think Kate, sister-in-law, has a cake for son, and she's expecting that you guys won't leave. I told her, no, we're still leaving. We'll be there for the ceremony, all the pictures, and at the reception for about an hour or so, but we're still giving our son his day. If they got a cake for my son, this was never communicated with us, even though we said multiple times we weren't staying for the entire reception. They just assumed this would make us stay. So that's what we did. We left right after the cake cutting and yeah, they had a small personal-sized cake for my son and everyone sang happy birthday to him before their cake cutting. It was very sweet and I was grateful. Recently, we've visited for my mom's birthday and my brother and his wife didn't come by, but I figured it was because of them not being vaccinated. Apparently not. According to my parents and sister, they're upset about us leaving their reception early. Apparently, I was supposed to stay and help them clean up like all the groomsmen/bridesmaids were. This was also never communicated with me. Also, my sister-in-law told my sister after the reception that my son's having to miss trick-or-treating 1 year shouldn't have been a big deal, and that we could have had a birthday party any other day. I haven't had a chance to talk to them, but I'm also not totally sorry. I'm sorry their feelings are hurt. That was not my goal. But feel like I communicated and compromised pretty well and they never said that it was an issue. If it was, I would have backed out of being a groomsman, but I doubt I would have stayed for the entire reception. My kids come first, period. If their wedding was any other day, I would have stayed for the entire reception. I might be the a-hole because he's my only brother, and I left what might be his only wedding early. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Ignoring someone is not a form of conflict resolution. If they had an issue with your plans to leave early, they could have and should have addressed it much sooner instead of buying a cake for your son without communicating at all. That's some passive-aggressive nonsense right there. If they can talk about it with OP directly, and this is all secondhand gossip from others, I would ignore all the talk and carry on as if everything is normal. If they can't be honest with OP and they prefer to talk behind their back, that says a lot about their character. If pressed by anyone, I'd reply I'm shocked that anyone would be upset with a 4-year-old for celebrating his birthday, and flip it back on them. Yeah, at 4 years old, it's possible this would be the first birthday where the son actually understands that his birthday is coming up and wants to pick what they do to celebrate it. Can you imagine telling a kid that age, "No, we can't do the once-a-year event you want to do for your birthday. We have to go to Uncle's adult party all night and help him clean up afterwards." Not day haul. 1. Halloween is major holiday depending on where you are. 2. It's your son's birthday. Your brother knew this for some years. 3. You gave him a warning ahead of time that you wouldn't stay for the entire wedding to celebrate your boy and Halloween. I got married on Halloween a few years ago, but made it clear that if guests didn't want to come for any reason, we were fine with that. Honestly, the wedding only really matters to the people getting married, and these long events can be an imposition. Not day haul. You told them multiple times you were going to leave early. They chose to ignore this and then try to make you stay via mom and son's cake. It's sneaky and manipulative. The only people a wedding really matters to is the folks getting married. For everyone else, it's just another event they have to plan for. Sure, your sons could miss a Halloween, but why? Because the couple are selfish? Trick-or-treating is one of those things there's a hard cap on. After a certain age, it's gone. Last story is titled, "Would I be the a-hole if I have my brother walk me down the aisle, knowing it would hurt feelings?" This is a conflict I had with my mom recently that I need to figure out where I'm placed in this. So I, 26 female, have an older brother, Sean, 33 male, and half-brother Cody, 14 male. Mine and Sean's dad died when I was 8 and he was 15. Our mom remarried to Jack 2 years later. Sean never really cared much to have a relationship with Jack. He was civil when he still lived at home, but once he was gone, he didn't really choose to build a relationship with Jack. And he has always been okay with Cody, but definitely treats us very different. So I have a very close relationship with Sean. He was my favorite person as a kid, and when our dad died, I looked up to him so much more because he's so like our dad, from appearance to personality. With Cody, I do love him, but if I'm being honest, it is nowhere near the same as the bond I have with Sean. I treat them both like just my brothers though, and I try not to use half-brother around Cody. There is conflict between Sean and our mom and Jack. They don't understand why he wouldn't be happy another man came in and stepped up and loved everyone and want to treat him with the same love and respect he gave our dad. Jack and I get along okay, but I do not consider him my dad. And I do sometimes hate how he expects the same kind of love as I have always had from my dad. And he did admit in family therapy on 3 separate occasions that he genuinely expected me to love him the same and see him as my new dad. My mom also expected more or less the same and admitted it. But she said she would be okay with just allowing him the same respect and role in my life. I got engaged a couple of weeks ago, and my first instinct was to ask Sean to walk me down the aisle and to do a special dance with me to honor our dad. My mom jumped in before I said anything and asked me what I was planning, and I told her. She told me that would hurt Jack and Cody's feelings. That a better option if I won't ask Jack would be to ask Cody, since he's also my brother, and would be a tie to Jack. I told her I wanted a tie to my dad and the brother I have that connection with. She told me that since Sean couldn't even treat Cody the same, it would be wrong to shun his dad and then have this elevated role for the brother who doesn't treat him the same as his sister. She told me I would be selfish and cruel if I asked someone who has been against family harmony and who treats family members, especially kids, like they're lesser members of the family. And while I still, deep in my heart, want Sean, I know she's right, and it will hurt feelings, especially Cody's, because it does upset him that Sean doesn't make the same effort with him as it does me. So my question is, would I be the a-hole if I ask Sean, knowing that it will hurt feelings? The other option which I'm kind of considering is walking alone or with my fiancé, but he wanted to enter with his sister/best woman. Not the a-hole. I would think an older brother walking your bride down the aisle is much more typical than having a younger teen brother walk you. A 14-year-old walking someone down the aisle is kinda weird. He's a bit too young to give away the bride, if this makes sense. I presume Opie wants to keep the tradition. It's not mandatory to do this, it's true, but everyone has their own choices. I would propose a compromise to involve the kids somehow, but not that. Maybe part of the entourage? Maybe an attendant. I could even see a teen being the ring bearer as well, somewhat like a mini groom with a responsibility. I guess Jack will already be a part of the ceremony as stepdad. Maybe the father-daughter dance can be with him? With a few compromises, as long as they're willing to do so, everyone can be happy somehow. Well, in reality, Opie shouldn't have to compromise with stuff like the father-daughter dance and such. Now, it would make some sense to make the younger brother a ring bearer or something. Not the a-hole. This is your wedding. Your wedding day, and you should be allowed to do what you want. Your mom and Jack can't accept the fact that neither you nor Sean has accepted Jack as a replacement dad. You don't treat him like your father because you don't see him as your father. You see Cody as a sibling, but not like you do Sean. You two have had a longer time together and a different bond than you do with Cody. It's the same for Sean. Sean has been there for you. If you want him to walk you down the aisle, you should ask him. Jack has to get over the fact that you're never going to see him as your father. Cody has learned that your relationship with him is different than the one with Sean, because you two have been together so much longer. Don't let someone use emotional manipulation to get you to do something for your wedding that you don't want to do. How do you think Sean will feel if Jack or Cody walks you down the aisle? I think you're going to have hurt feelings no matter what you choose to do. Do what you want for your wedding. Not the a-hole. Have Sean walk you down the aisle and suggest your mom and stepdad have a talk with their therapist. Their idea of family harmony is that their feelings are more important than anyone else's. Tell them they can watch Sean walk you down the aisle and enjoy the moment for the two of you and be happy. Or they can look at your photo album after.